Hey, how you doing? This is Charles White. We're live here at Jelly Bellies in Sassoon, California, and I'm here with Mr. Chris Turner, the Director of Communications. How you doing?
How you doing, Charles?
Okay.
It's good to be here.
Okay, so I mean, tell my audience, Channel 27, Vacaville Access, California, Fairfield Access Television. Tell my audience why we're here today.
We are having the annual Delta Ball, Charles, which is a fundraiser for the Solano GOP. And we have a number of candidates that are coming to speak here on the vision of the future for the California Republican Party. And that's going to be the topic that we have this evening.
That's the topic that we have now. It's the California Republican Party, and we're here. So give me some of the speakers. Who's going to be speaking here today?
Well, other than our chairman, Don Preston, and David Miller, who is our events chairman, we're going to have Lydia Gutierrez. She's a candidate for California Superintendent of Public Institutions. We have the Honorable Assemblyman Tim Donnelly. He's going to be a candidate for governor coming up in the next couple of years. And we have Jim Brulte, who is a former state senator, and he's going to be the candidate for the California Republican Party.
Okay, you say candidate for governor, so you getting ready to take Brown out?
Well, we hope so. He'll be a candidate to take out Governor Brown, yeah, next couple of years, assuming Brown runs for the election.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I just need to know this. Do the party just vote because they are Republican or because it's a good candidate? How do we vote?
Well, I think you take in a combination of factors, but you know, we have what's here. I would say the loyal GOP following that tend to vote Republican no matter what. But obviously, you know, in some circumstances, you want to take into account the candidate you're choosing or electing.
All right, you hear that? You're Republican, vote Republican regardless. All right, but is that across the board? Should the Democrats follow that same theory, that same?
Well, I mean, it depends on their constituency. When we have an election, we have what we call an independent bloc, and they tend to choose and then they go back and forth. And so in a primary election, that's who you want to target. You want to go after that independent bloc, which constitutes about 20% of the electorate, usually.
All right, okay, well, we're going to see what happened. Brown, you hear they after you, they coming. It's Donnelly?
Tim Donnelly, yes.
Jim Donnelly. Okay, well, we're going to get inside and look like you guys spared no expense. It's very beautiful inside. Dinner is going on. Tell me about the dinner. What's going on with that?
Oh, well, we have a prime rib dinner, or if someone doesn't like beef, we have a roast chicken dinner served by House of Crepes in Fairfield, California.
All right, well, is anybody that you would like to thank before we get out of here and we get inside and hear these speeches? I'm looking forward to this. You know, I love this. So anybody would you like to thank?
Well, we'd like to thank everyone who volunteered and participated, the Boy Scouts of America, and as well as several Christian high schools that have participated and volunteered for our functions here. We'd like to thank you very much.
And I would like to thank you, Mr. Chris Turner, for inviting Vacaville Access Channel 27 and Fairfield out. I would like to thank Paul, Kim, Bruce, and Dave for coming out, working behind the scenes. This is Charles White, and we are here at Jelly Bellies in Sassoon, California. It's going down. GOP.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Solano County Republican Central Committee Annual Delta Ball, Unmasking the GOP. My name is Mark Williams. A couple of you in the room have heard of me from time to time over the course of the last few years. I'm a radio talk show host, heard primarily these days in Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, San Diego, San Francisco. I used to be in Sacramento. I do it all from here. I still live in Sacramento. I refuse to leave California. It's my home and I'm not giving it up. No matter what happens. I should be careful saying that. We have a great lineup of speakers for you and some great food. If you were here last year, you know how wonderful the food is, some great wine. But I'd like to start with our invocation. Ed Connelly from the Good Samaritan Mission Baptist Church in Vallejo is here to give us our invocation this evening. And that's one nifty cane. That's a beauty.
Oh man, it's pretty good.
Oh man, my foot. Here you go.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Can we bow our heads, please? Most gracious Father, we come before to give you thanks. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings you bestowed upon us. Father, as you look down upon this gala, let our minds and our hearts be open to understand the things that we need to understand, to know that we are all one people, and we need to work together to improve this nation. Look down upon our people that are in power, Father. Let them get a change of heart. Let them understand that this is the words "we the people" don't mean just us, but it means everyone. Father, as you give everyone traveling mercies they receive from this place. Through your Son, Christ Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. David Miller? Dave Warren. Here he comes. Here he comes. David Miller is our gala chairman and the second vice president. He's here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mark.
Well, it's always great to come on over here from Sacramento because I find myself in a nest of common sense and the resistance. I spent more than 2 years on the road traveling to more than 200 cities as chairman of the Tea Party Express with Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann, and the others, trying our best to educate the American public on what was happening. I never thought that I'd be standing here before you today and say that I actually am speaking to you in an occupied country. We are living under Vichy government. And we here in Solano and other nests of common sense have got to grapple with the fact that even our own party has been compromised at the highest levels, and we need to fight not just to take back our country, but first to take back our party. We need to unite under the banner of the United States Constitution, the founding documents and ideals of this country. Now, many of you have heard me say this before, and if you haven't, it'll be new to you, and please bear with me, but this nation is unique in human history because it is the one and only society ever formed on the foundation of government having as its only legitimate reason to exist to protect and advance human rights of the individual, not of groups, not of classes, not to set class against class, not to rip off you because you work for a living and give to you because you don't want to work for a living or can't work for a living. We reached a tipping point this past November where those of us who believe in America were outnumbered at the polls by those who do not. They don't believe in the ideals of America. They believe in the ideals of the redistribution. There's a reason why Dinesh D'Souza used me in his movie 2016. Because those are the things I was saying on the road. And that's the truth. We are the final line of defense of what's left of our tattered Constitution. And in order to do that, we need to regroup. I know there's no shortage of Marines in this room and other military. There you go. You do not get your tail kicked and stay in hiding. You regroup and you come out with guns blazing, figuratively speaking, in today's political purview. You heard about that kid who was suspended for bringing a picture of a gun to school? An assault JPEG? I'm wondering what would happen if he brought a picture of Obama shooting that shotgun to In any event, I'm going to keep it to a minimum. This is invigorating. I feel as if I'm in the resistance at some place. I never thought that I would live in an occupied nation. Domestic enemy ideology has taken this nation by the throat. Complacency in high places has facilitated and protects that. I'm not mentioning any names, but there's a whole list of people in Washington who need to go away, and the letters after their titles, whether it be an R or D, don't make a damn bit of difference. We need more people like the people in this room who believe in America, who believe in the ideals of this nation, who believe in its exceptionalism, who believe that a day's honest labor deserves a day's honest dollar that belongs to that individual. That taxes are for the running of the essential services of government. And the fact that California and most of the country have roads that would make the Donner Party turn around and go home, that's one of the essential services being ignored. The defense of this country, there's an aircraft carrier being docked for the next 4 years because we cannot afford to refuel it. That's an essential service. Obamacare is not an essential service. Redistributing what you work for is not an essential service. California, with a combined federal and state tax load highest in the nation of almost 54% at the top, that's not essential. Obama funds are not essential. We know that. You know that. Most of America knows that. But what we've got, and I said this on television back in the beginning of 2008, I said in November of that year, the most politically, historically, and culturally illiterate electorate in the history of this country would go to the polls and vote to end this noble experiment. One which began in my hometown of Boston, and in my adopted hometown of Philadelphia, and the ideals that I brought here and my family to California in the 1950s. This room is where the revolution begins, and the shot heard around the world will echo once again. Please let me bring to the podium right now Mr. Don Preston with the chairman's welcome. He is, of course, is the chairman of the SRC.
Well, good evening, everybody. How heartening, heartfelt. It just makes my heart flutter when I see all of you here for all the right reasons. And I want to say a few things just to get this started. First of all, Ed, thank you for that wonderful invocation. It was beautiful. And Dave, thank you for the Pledge of Allegiance. The meaning of that Pledge of Allegiance is why we're all here. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, to our second annual gala. And it looks like we're outnumbering the first. So the hard work of all the folks and the dedication of all you here to principles is what's making the difference. As a matter of fact, your presence here tells us that we're moving in the right direction. You're going to hear me a little bit later talking about strategic direction, being focused, making sure we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And that's what is going to make us move forward, as Mark suggested. We have an exciting group of speakers and a wonderful meal prepared by Chef Ned, owner of our local Fairfield's Crepes and More restaurant, located across the street from our headquarters at 625 Jackson. I hope you'll come and visit that facility. We have an exquisite, award-winning wine at the bar from Jim McCulley's Gun Barrel Winery of Sonoma. And he's provided us...
Put the round hole in, you know, the gun barrel?
There you go. And it's just exquisite, award-winning wine, so if you like wine, that's what you should have. Thank you, Jim, for bringing that. And we have the highest quality beer, brewed locally at the microbrewery of the Blue Frog Restaurant at the Fairfield Mall, generously provided by owner Dennis Landis. And I think you're starting to see a theme here. Local business is supporting what we're doing. And we're supporting local business to bring jobs to our community. Before starting the festivities, we want to recognize a very special person who has quietly but steadfastly supported the Solano County community. With heartfelt thanks, we recognize Mr. Herm Roland. Owner of Jelly Belly, this wonderful facility. And his excellent staff, Mr. John Jamison, Ms. Kelly Steffi. I don't know if they're here, but if you are, say hi. They've done a lot of work behind the scenes. Thank you, Mr. Roland, for that. Mr. Roland, would you kindly join me at the podium for this presentation? Throughout the Visitor Center, we noticed wonderful artwork and hope that you will find this portrait a worthy addition. We have in our midst a very talented artist, Lloyd Gunny Dashner. Lloyd, where are you? I believe his work could be in any museum anywhere. He's that good. And what he has put upon the request of the executive committee of our central committee, he's painted well, I'm going to take this and open it up if I may. Excuse me. I won't fall off the podium.
Wow.
Is a sure-footed elephant balanced upon an extra-large, scrumptious, red state jelly belly wing. The Solano County Republican Central Committee thanks you, Mr. Roland, and your team from the bottom of our hearts for your gracious generosity and support. We hope you will accept this token of our gratitude. Thank you very much.
I've got to take the mic away for a second.
Absolutely.
This is absolutely very, very precious to me. As you know, we are very conservative, hardcore Republicans. We want what is best for the people that don't have much, the people that have a little, the people that have a little bit more, and then the people that are criticized for having enough to live on. So, at any rate, thank you so much. We accept this at the company and appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'd like to recognize our distinguished guests, and the numbers and the people have been changing so fast so that my list is probably not current, and I apologize for that. So rather than trying to make sure I get each name and keep you from dinner, I'm going to kind of do it in a group. And of course, the first person, our keynote speaker, Senator Jim Brulte, I'd like to introduce him. And you'll be hearing many wonderful words from Mr. Brulte, Senator Brulte. Next, I'd like to introduce Assemblyman Tim Donnelly.
Yeah.
He's running as an exploratory candidate for Governor 2014. And of course, we can't forget Elizabeth Emkin and Kim Van. Would you guys folks stand? And we have somebody here we're extremely proud of, Mr. Council Member, Dixon Council Member Steve Bird, who we're excited has just been elected to the Dixon City Council. Congratulations. We also have Mark Pruder, chairman of all the chairmen of the Central Committees, State of California. And we have Charlie Schaup, Tim Core, candidates that were candidates in the Congressional District 3 as well. Jennifer Good. All right, Ken. Vacaville City Council candidate. Eugene Ray, candidate for Congressional District 3. Mike Hudson. Where are you, Mike? Mike, Vice Mayor, City of Susu. We have Honorable Court Judge Mike Nail. Mike, where are you? And Honorable Judge Peterson of the Appellate Court, Ninth Court. Judge Peterson, welcome. Louis Bewley, are you here? Yes. There's Louis. Louis publishes a wonderful news article on the internet. He's Mr. Techie, unbelievable. He gets all the news to all of us on a regular basis of what's going on around the state. If I've missed anybody, Mark LaLuan. Where's Mark? There's Mark. Mark ran for the superintendent, the Board of Solano Community College Board of Trustees. And he did pretty good for a first time. And we are trying to get youth involved in the political process. Personally, the reason I'm here, I look back of all the years I was busy raising my family, working hard, multiple jobs. I have a lovely wife, Jan. Would you stand just a second? Say hello. That's my wife, Jan. Raising a family, 4 children, 8 grandchildren now. And all of a sudden it came to me as I keep watching the news and watching our country, I can't stand back and watch this anymore. I've got to do something. And that's why I'm here. And I'm sure that's why all of you are here. So with that, I'd like to, Alyssa Watley, running for Northwest Region Chair. And Camille and Carolyn, where are you? Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Women's Federated. So past chair. Where's Camille? There's Camille. We work very closely with the Women's Federated. Okay, I think it's time for dinner. I'm going to let Mark organize that, if I may. And thank you again, from the deepest part of my heart, for you all being here. It really is wonderful to see all of you here.
Don mentioned the youth. There's a gentleman in the room named Daniel Harrison. He's the 2012 Taxpayer of the Year, appointed by Howard Jarvis. Taxpayers. And please allow me to introduce my beautiful wife, Holly, past Vice President of the Placer County Republican Women's Club. She shared a Mark Twain Award with me for her work with me in Baghdad in 2005, broadcasting live from the war to get the real story out. All right, enough of that stuff. Time to eat. We're going to go by tables. We'll start with table 1 and work our way with table 1, 2, and 3. If you would all head down to the buffet. If we don't do it that way, it'll look like Interstate 80 on a Friday afternoon heading toward time.
Because this represents the start of the new campaign. We all kind of licked our wounds. We're ripping off the Band-Aids now, and we're getting back to work. Tonight, we'd like to unmask the GOP, especially as it pertains to Solano County and the state of California. I'd like to address the local issues, and I'll defer to Senator Brulte to handle the state, maybe national issues. First, a little introduction for those of you that may not be familiar with what a Central Committee does. A Central Committee is a structure built to support candidates and their campaigns. Our volunteers assist candidates by walking local precincts throughout Solano County to talk to voters, distribute campaign materials, and put up campaign signs. We also hold communications and fundraising events, such as this one right here, to update our community on issues, introduce candidates and incumbents. And of course, we rely on volunteers and donations, and you all may have noticed a little envelope on your table. We interact with the central committees in adjacent counties to support candidates whose districts cross boundaries. We participate in the several California Republican Party state conventions to vote on state candidates, platforms, and to learn about state issues, and to communicate and coordinate with other central committees throughout the state. We want to be united, and you're going to hear that theme a lot. We want to work together. Our entire operation is dependent upon volunteers and benefactors. Over the past year and a half, we've increased our volunteers to approximately 200. My forecast, within 4 years, is going to be probably 2,000 to 3,000, maybe more. Our headquarters building was donated by Mr. Bob Dittmer and remodeled by volunteers, many of whom are in this room today, or you saw on the slides that were up there earlier. Again, Mr. Dittmer is a local businessman in our county, very highly respected. Mr. Ray Connor donated computers, furniture, telephone systems, internet, and satellite TV systems at our headquarters, 3,000 plus square foot building. Mac McCarthy volunteered as our electrician and photographer. Abby Carpet of Vacaville and Solano Carpet of Fairfield donated flooring materials. The connection keeps going. Local business, we're supporting them, they're supporting us. There are many folks too numerous to mention here who assisted us in many ways the last year and a half, but we're grateful to all of them. We also work side by side with the Women's Federated. Matter of fact, our entire executive committee are now associate members of the Women's Federated here in Fairfield. We love them. If you haven't been to one of their meetings that they run and the guest speakers that they have, on which Monday of the month is it? First Monday of the month, you're missing something. Because, it's just, we had a speaker on the 11th, which helps the underdeveloped areas, gets the kids into school, keeps them running. Lots of other programs. Women's Federated, our heartfelt thanks to you. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's begin the update on Solano County Republican Central Committee. Any good corporate person, I'm retired corporate life, has to start with a mission statement, and here it is. The Solano County Republican Central Committee will make the Republican Party the majority party in Solano County. Then you have to have a vision. What does a vision look like? Solano County is a Republican stronghold. Okay, now you're going to see the analytical part of me. I went through the Secretary of State's database, and this is what I found about Solano County. I'll use my cursor to kind of follow through here. You notice up at this top line, these are the eligible voters in Solano County. 274,284 eligible voters. But look at this. Only 209,484 are actually registered. We got a job to do here. That job could get us 64,800 voters. Look what the Democrats have as voters, registered voters, 101,815, and we have 52,777. Would that 64,000 look good on top of this number? And that's a big part of our work. The other part is down here. No party preference. They haven't made up their mind. And you know, I like those kinds of folks because they're going to go with the people that make the most sense. And guess who I think makes the most sense? There's another 45,581 voters, which leaves us 110,381 vote target. At our tomato festivals when we participate, and some of the other events where we participate, community events, we have Democrats coming to our booth and changing their registration to Republican. We also have a registration booth right there, so anybody hasn't done it. It's right there, and it's at every one of our events. So we have a good challenge, but I don't look at it as a challenge, I look at it as an opportunity. And I believe we're up to the test. Now what about California? We've heard a lot of talk about California. I looked up good old happy Google, and look where California ranks as of last year, 8th grade science. We're number 47. One of the biggest states in the country, and we're 47th in education and science for our 8th graders. That doesn't make any sense. This is from the Orange County Register, May 11th, 2012. Then I found an article from the Pacific Research Institute, an independent institute. You know what they call California? Taxifornia. Taxifornia. California, they say, wins the booby prize for the highest personal income tax in the nation and higher sales tax rates than all but 4 other states. Though Californians benefit from Proposition 13, you heard Mark talk about what they're trying to do to that. Proposition 13 restrictions on how much property taxes can go up in 1 year. The state still has the worst state tax burden in the United States. According to a March 2012 report by the California Political News and Views, we got another problem. During the recession period that bottomed out in March of last year, and 4 years back, that interval, California lost 855,000 jobs. We had an unemployment rate of 11%. And tie that with the way we look at education, 47. At the same time period, during the same time period, Texas gained 139,800 jobs. In a lousy economy, they gained jobs. And they only had 7.1% unemployment, when the nation was 8.3%. What's wrong with that picture? You know, I'm a flight instructor. I haven't been flying much lately. But I went to a certified flight instructor's refresher clinic. And we were talking about night landings. You know, you're in the dark, you're up there at altitude, and that doggone engine quits. What do you do? We're going over all the safety procedures. This one young lady, flight instructor, stands up, and she says, well, I got the perfect answer for that. She says, I turn on my lights, and I don't see a landing area, and I don't like what I see, I turn off the lights. Well, let me tell you, we are going to turn those lights on, and when you turn those lights on, you're going to see a landing area. That's what our job is. We've got to clear the area so we can make a safe landing. Another interesting note is Washington, D.C. was number 3 in job growth during that time period, with 21,000 private jobs gained. I guess government is big business, isn't it? You go into Washington, D.C., and those hotels are extraordinarily expensive. You've got all these people making all that money. Government's big business. But California was the absolute worst. And we need to make sure everybody understands that we got to fix it. Okay, so again, the analytical part of these statistics tell it all. Our voter registration opportunity is 110,381. We're at the bottom in education. We got to get it fixed. Personal tax rates are the highest in the nation. We got to deal with that and get that fixed. So we can get these jobs that were lost, we can get that 855,000 jobs back and maybe start growing jobs like Texas is. We lost Copart Auto Auction here, one of the largest companies in our county. We lost MV Transportation here, one of the largest bus companies in our county. We just can't keep this going. I'm a real estate agent. When I retired from corporate life, the last 13 years I've been selling real estate. I have to face people that are in tears over what's happening to their life, being turned upside down by a 56% drop in the price of housing. We have to help them through short sales so they don't incur extra debt. Help them through foreclosure issues. I actually have a story of a young lady was sitting with her family in her kitchen, in her own kitchen, in a very nice, safe neighborhood. They never locked the doors. Some people start walking into their house. And she looks up and, who are these people? She looks out the window. There's 25 cars outside. The next morning, somebody knocks at her door and says, "Ma'am, I'm the new owner of your house. How soon can you be out?" I see this kind of thing every day. I am committed to get it fixed. And I hope you are too. So, how do we do it? You got to have a strategy. You got to be focused. When I was taking some business classes, the professor, who happened to be in the military, was the head of logistics for the entire Pacific. And he told, one of the first things he told us in this business class was, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people tell me that they don't have time to plan." And he says, "I tell you, you can't afford not to." So, we got to be strategic to be effective. We got to set up a system to listen. And to do that, we've established city coordinators in our committee. We're assigning one leader to each city to work with the precinct captains to get to know the city council, to get to know the mayor, to get to know the people in the utility district, to get to know the people in the school district, to make sure they know what's going on, and listen, ask them questions, sit in on meetings. We've recruited precinct teams. Thanks to the goodness of the state, they gave us the ability. We got 25,000 door hangers last election. And you know what? We just distributed just about every one of them. Every one of us walking. And so, another thing is communications media. We've got the television here. I don't know if you know it, but you're on TV, on the local TV channels. Vacaville and Fairfield. We want to let everybody know what we're doing. It's not a secret. We have to be open. We have to let people know what we're doing. We use the internet. Our information technology manager for our team, His wife just had a baby a couple of days ago, so he couldn't be here with us tonight. Beautiful Sophia. Lovely baby. But we have an internet site, and many of you use the PayPal system on our website to get your tickets to come here. That internet site is connected to Facebook and Twitter. And you're going to see that machine just cranking away over the next 4 years. And then, of course, you have to have events like this. Wonderful people like yourself that are concerned about their county, the state, and the country. Together, we can listen to the voters and address their needs, listen to the city and county leaders, analyze issues and formulate positions. We have 3 graduate students on our team. One's working on a PhD. That was Daniel in the Taxpayers Association. And we are going to prepare an analysis of all the issues out there. And we're not going to do it overnight. It's going to take us 6 months to a year. But we are going to be smart. We're going to be knowledgeable. And then we're going to be analyzing and rewarding incumbents in county and city offices that are getting the job done properly. And we're going to recruit candidates to resolve incumbent deficiencies. Finally, we're going to create value that entices voters to register. Now, marketing and sales textbooks say that in order to do a good job in marketing, you have to find your customers' needs and fulfill them. Who are our customers?
Citizens of the United States.
The citizens. That's right. The citizens are our customers. And they're the voters. And they're the ones that should be making the decisions. But we have to give them the plan so they can determine that it's a good decision. So, values. We have to have values in our strategy. What are our values? From what we've seen in this county, looking outward, people are all over the board on what they're trying to accomplish. We feel, especially based on the statistics I just showed you, fiscal responsibility is number 1. Let's focus on fiscal responsibility, number 1, and fix those things. People will have a better quality of life because they'll have more jobs, they'll have money, they won't be suffering. Fiscal responsibility. Follow the Constitution. At your table, every one of you has a copy of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. We need to be non-judgmental, have freedom of expression, and freedom of association. We do those things, all the other issues we can take care of later. Quite frankly, I think most of them will take care of themselves. So we have to unmask our character. And I see these are the key points. We have to be knowledgeable. We have to know what we're talking about. Find out what the issues are in the way I just mentioned. We have to be collaborative. We have to be able to talk to people and include them. We need to be inclusive. And that is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. We have formed a standing committee chairman responsible for Republican diversity. Republican diversity. All cultures need to be represented in this community. Both sexes. All age groups. We need to be inclusive. It can't be just a little club. And our goal, and that's why I think we're going to have 2,000 or 3,000 volunteers, because we're going to be inclusive. We have to be compassionate. I told you the sad stories. We have to be compassionate. Some people are having problems. We have to understand that we have to help them through these problems until we can get these fiscal issues fixed. And then, I had a family doctor when they used to come to our home. The days when doctors used to come to your house, Dr. Gordon said to us, you've got to take care of your own business before you take care of someone else. So we got to fix things. We got to fix things. And we have to be ethical. Now, I've only been at this business for about 1.5 years. And I'm ashamed to say, I've seen some things that I don't feel good about. I've seen people tell me things that aren't true. I've seen people make commitments that they don't follow through. I've seen some of the candidates eat their own. Can't do that. You have to give everybody an opportunity, and you have to be positive. There's too much of this negative stuff. And you have to be ethical. Treat people fairly. And last but not least, you have to be united. We all have to work together. A synergy is when the sum is greater than the total of the parts. 100 people should give you 150%. And I can give you an example in the real world. When I was a warehouse foreman, and we were having problems with productivity, I found that there were some gentlemen that were having to pick up heavy cases of oil. Another one would put a label on it. Well, originally, when I got there, the person was picking up the case, carrying the label, putting the label on it, and then throwing it on the conveyor. And that's when I put the 2 people on it, and they would take turns picking up the cases and putting the labels on. Then they would switch. And the other guy would pick up the heavy case, and the other guy get arrested by putting the label on. That was before we had all this automatic stuff. And guess what? Our productivity of the 2 was 1.5 times what it was. The productivity per person was 1.5 times. So we got 3 times the work out of 2 people because we let them rest and did it the right way. Okay, so I want to introduce our Solano team. It's your Solano team. These are the people that are out here working for you. First Vice Chairman Jim McCulley, would you please stand? He's back there. See, he's back there working for you. Second Vice Chairman Dave Miller and Gala Chairman, will you stand, please? Third Vice Chairman Frank Carmelo, would you please stand? Our treasurer, Betty Plowman, is working in the transportation industry right now. She's down in Ontario. But Bob Charbonneau, a former IRS agent and investigator, I think he's the right guy for handling our money. Our secretary, Ruth Van Bemmel. And our sergeant at arms and wonderful artist, Gunny, Lloyd Nash. And the rest of the team, the Solano County team, please stand. Everybody on the team, please stand on our community. All of you. You see, we have a building committee, we have an IT committee, we have a communications committee. We're developing a business advisory committee. We have a regional central committee communications coordinator. We have membership, voter registration, Republican Diversity Committee, and we're forming a PAC to raise more money. And Mark LaLuan and Honorable Judge Nail are going to be working together on that. We'll have a Lincoln Club here in Solano County within a year. We have city coordinators. Dixon, we haven't got one assigned yet, but we will. And Ron Mulligan from Bassall Company over there, I'm sure he will help us. Vice President. Fairfield, Bob Charbonneau, Rio Vista is to be determined. We're working on that. Susoon, Lloyd Dashner, Gunny. Vacaville, Alex Henthorne. Where are you, Alex? There's Alex. Vallejo, Franklin Carbello. And then we have to target the unincorporated areas. So that's our team. You know where we're going in our plan, and it's going to take us probably 3 to 6 months to get our strategy straight. We'll do it. We now have the ground game. We are growing. We're going to approach 200 volunteers right now, but within 4 years, we're going to be 2,000 to 5,000. Somewhere in that range. We're strategic and we're organized. I hope you'll join us. You'll come to our events. You'll support us. And we'll get this problem fixed. God bless you all. Thank you. Mark?
To paraphrase, win one for the giver! Well, it's no secret to those of you who know me from the Tea Party Trail and from my radio shows that I've been at odds with some elements of the Republican Party since Melanie Morgan, Eric Hogue, and I joined forces to recall Gray Davis, only to have our warnings be not heeded, and that warning was beware of Kennedy's bearing a grinning Austrian. But the Republican Party today is going to be rescued by returning to its roots, redefining itself as it is supposed to be. Don't forget, this party was born of abolition. This party was born when the Democrat Party formed its own country in order to maintain the right to own other human beings. And then when they lost that, spent the next century doing their darndest to prevent implementation of civil rights and human rights. And having failed that, concocted these social programs that enslave people just as effectively and more so, in many cases, than chains, because people willingly sell themselves into the new kind of servitude. And far too many do. We need a new leadership at all levels of the Republican Party. At the national level, at state levels, across the country. You and I, we are now the insurgency. We're the insurgency because so much of our party has been compromised. And one of the people who will lead us in that direction, is he, I don't see him, is he back in the room? Is he going out somewhere? Am I going to have to take this microphone into the men's room? Is this going to be like that scene from Police Squad, where Leslie Nielsen forgets to turn off his microphone? That's what's going to happen. I got, ladies and gentlemen, former senator, state senator, and candidate for the California Republican Party chairmanship, Jim Brulte.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? First of all, thank you. I'm a Baptist boy from Southern California, so thank you for having a Baptist preacher give the invocation. Oh, deacon, sorry about that. Happy to promote you.
No. That's a hard job.
And it's great to be here at Jelly Belly, which was the name the Democrats called me when I was trying to take out incumbents in the Assembly. For those of you that I've not had the privilege of meeting, I served 14 years in the state legislature. I was elected in 1990 and left in 2004. And quite frankly, for the last 8 years, I've kind of been in the cheap seats. I've been in the wealth creation part of my life. I believed in public service, didn't make a lot of money, and don't have a government pension, don't have any pension. So for the last 8 years, I've been working hard to put money away for retirement. And I've been concerned with what I see at the California Republican Party. And my concern actually turned to horror one night last November. And so I was asked by some of my friends in Southern California and some of my friends in Northern California to consider running for chairman of the California Republican Party. In fact, one of the first people to call me was Tom McClintock, who I served with in the Assembly and Senate, and he said, Jim, it's time to get out of the cheap seats and get back in the game. And I used some language with him that wouldn't be appropriate in front of a mixed company. And then I went home and thought about that, and some of you know I used to work for President Reagan, and I was rereading one of his speeches. And when Ronald Reagan was president, there was a particular issue facing our country that hadn't been dealt with, and he asked the questions, if not us, who? And if not now, when? And Deke and I got convicted.
Yes.
And I decided to run for chairman of the California Republican Party. And let me just tell you a little bit about why I'm running and what I want to do. First of all, I want to be the most boring Republican Party chairman we have ever had. I want to put the emphasis back on our candidates and take it off the California Republican Party leaders. I want to focus on nuts and bolts because we've gotten away from that. I'm always cautioned that I shouldn't come to Northern California and mention Southern California teams. Yeah. But are there any Bruins fans in the audience? One. Okay. Well, you've heard of John Wooden. Oh, yeah. A friend of mine played basketball for John Wooden, and he got great freshman. I mean, he served great all-star in his high school career, and he got to UCLA, and John Wooden, first day of training, said, we're going to start with the basics. This is how you put on your socks to avoid blisters. And this is the correct way to tie your shoes so you avoid blisters. 7'1", played behind Bill Walton. Didn't get a lot of playing time. Came back as a sophomore. First day of training, John Wooden said, we're going to start with the basics. This is how you put on your socks to avoid blisters. And I think the California Republican Party needs to get back to the basics. So I want to focus on three things. Because we can't focus on everything. Focus on three things. First of all, when your political party owned the governorship for as long as ours did, we had the governorship from 1982 to 1998, 16 years. We had a break with Governor Davis, then we had Governor Schwarzenegger, and now we have Jerry Brown. But for the most of the last 30 years, we had Republican governors. And the California Republican Party has raised unbelievable amounts of money. Because when you own the governorship, a lot of big contributors want to contribute to you. There's a lot of money flows to where perceived power is. And over the course of the last few years, the California Republican Party has allowed its fundraising muscles to atrophy. Over a decade ago, the California Republican Party was netting over $1.1 million through the mail. Today we net less than $350,000 because we haven't reinvested in the mail program. In terms of intermediate donors, $1,000, $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 donors. The California Republican Party last year raised $140,000. In a state of this many people, we can't afford to fund our operation. The California Republican Party today is somewhere between $500,000 and $800,000 in debt. There are 3 full-time people, 2 of whom don't even work in an office. They work out of their home. So the first thing I want to do is rebuild the finance base of the party. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's hard work. Today, the California Republican Party relies on Republican elected officials and Republican candidates to raise money for it. And I think that's just backwards. The California Republican Party ought to be raising money to help elect Republican candidates. Second, in certain areas of the state, we've allowed our grassroots operations to atrophy. I love it. One of your Solano leaders here, she's just like this. You're ahead of me, as if you wrote my speech for me. Now look, we have limited resources, but we can play a significant role in the 2014 elections. First of all, over half of the congressional seats that we lost in America, Republicans lost, we lost in California. And because of redistricting across the country, there are very few places where Republicans can pick up seats. And by the way, there are very few places where Democrats can pick up seats as well. So California can actually be and will be ground zero for the battle to keep control of Congress. Nancy Pelosi cannot be Speaker again without picking up seats in California. And we have an opportunity to stop her. So, we've got to go in and analyze where we have good infrastructure. County parties are our basic grassroots organization. The Fed, by the way, thank you Fed members. It was a Fed member from the Chafee Committee that when I was 10 got me involved in politics. So thank you. In the Inland Empire, where Tim Donnelly and I come from, Gary Miller is a Republican congressman. He is number 1 or 2 on Nancy Pelosi's hit list. We have to build infrastructure under him. In the Central Valley, David Valadao, brand new Republican congressman. Nancy Pelosi's going to come after him. We have to build infrastructure under that. Those are our defensive opportunities. But we have some offensive opportunities too. We can take back the seat that we lost when Dan Lundgren lost. We can take back the seat that Brian Bilbray lost. We can take back the seat that Mary Bono lost. We can get rid of John Garamendi. We can give Jim Costa a run for his money. We can give Lois Capps a run for his money. So we need to build infrastructure because we can play a role helping the national Republicans retain control of the House. We also have to help the Republicans in the state legislature. For the first time since 1800s, the Democrats have supermajorities in both houses of the state legislature. And I'm going to say something that is unbelievable, but it's true. You know, Jerry Brown's actually one of the most conservative elected Democrats in Sacramento. Now, in what universe should that ever be the case? And all you have to do is talk to guys like Tim Donnelly, who will tell you what the Democrats in the legislature really want to do. I mean, the voters of California just passed Prop 30, large tax increase. Less than 2 days later, a state senator, a Democratic state senator from Los Angeles proposed tripling the car tax. Less than 2 days later. I mean, at least Mark Leno from San Francisco waited a week before he proposed gutting Prop 13. The Democrats in the legislature will take this state to a place where none of us want. You know, when I was a kid, Detroit was one of the richest cities in America. Democratic control of that city turned it into what it is today. A city that's dead or dying. And the Democrats in California, they're not much different than the Democrats who ran Detroit into the ground. We have to build infrastructure underneath Senator Connelly. We can go into Orange County and pick up a seat. We ought to commit. We ought to commit to get one house or the other of the legislature back from Democrat supermajority. And we can do that by rebuilding the grassroots. And finally, we have to go down into every office in every community and recruit, train, and provide technical support to Republican candidates, from water district and utility district to city council and county supervisor, all the way up to governor of the state of California. Politics is a team sport. I'm from the Vince Lombardi School. I believe it's the job of the party to do the blocking and tackling. Now I'm going to do something else that's stupid. They say confession is good for the soul. I come up to Northern California and I have to confess that I am a San Diego Chargers season ticket holder.
I'm a Raider fan.
Those are fighting words, but your home territory. But you won't believe this because you're a Raider fan.
And a Detroit fan.
But the San Diego Chargers actually have a pretty good quarterback. But even the best quarterback in the league can't connect when he's on his back. Our candidates have to be the quarterbacks of our team, and it's the job of the political party to do the blocking and tackling. And that's what I want to do with state party chair. It's not glamorous. It's not easy. But it's the nuts and bolts work necessary to rebuild. Too many times we've had people who want to build our party from the top down. We have to rebuild our party from the bottom up. So I want to focus on rebuilding the finance base of the party, one, so we can get out of debt, and two, so we can provide the services that we need to for our candidates. Second, I want to help rebuild and revitalize, and to the extent where we have great party operations, reinvigorate and expand our grassroots. And three, I want to recruit candidates in every community. They say that we're not a diverse party. The dirty little secret is we have hundreds of Republican elected officials who are African American, Asian, Latino, but we don't highlight them. We don't have a party operation to raise the visibility of our candidates and our elected officials, and that's what I want to do as chairman of the party. With your support, I want to make a promise. If I'm elected state party chair, I will get up every morning for the next 2 years, dedicated to figuring out how we move the ball forward to elect more Republicans. Not because we just want to do that, but because the future of California depends on it. I like this state. I grew up in this state. I want to live in this state. And a healthy California demands a strong two-party system, and I want to be a part of rebuilding the Republican Party in this state. Thanks for letting me be here.
That man is singing my song. You're going to elect the president tomorrow unless you were elected dog catchers today. That's my song, and if I might add one sports metaphor to it in addition to the Chargers. And by the way, Raiders fans make Eagles fans look civilized. Growing up Red Sox Nation, I know what it is to have no bench. To go to Pawtucket and see nobody on the field, and knowing that the first person to get sick at Fenway we're doomed. I'm going to teeter on the edge of blasphemy here. Back in the day, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, when he was doing good, and he didn't do good one time, and the original Operation Push would take these little black kids out of the streets of Chicago, 4 or 5 years old, and tell them, berate them, to say, I am somebody. And they would start with their eyes downcast. And they would go, oh, I am somebody. And he would keep at it until that little child would look up at him, full in the face, to finally go, I am somebody. Well, the Republican Party stands for something. We stand for something. Everybody, we stand for something. Louder.
We stand for something.
We stand for liberty.
Liberty.
We stand for liberty.
Liberty.
We stand for the Constitution.
Constitution.
We will not lose the battle for the soul of America. Yeah. One
We stand for something.
Well, I can't dance either. Let me, one of my Facebook friends actually is in the room. He's planning to run for governor. Why the hell do you want that job? Just make sure, don't ever let the canine into that office in a horseshoe until you check the ashtrays real careful with him. Because, you don't know. It's a throwback to the Linda Ronstadt days. I'm sorry, I'm an old guy. Ladies and gentlemen, our next governor of the great state of California. Are we ready for this one? Honorable Assemblyman Tim Dunn.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Herm, for hosting this. And thank you to all of you who do the work necessary so that so many electeds can sit in this room. I'm the product of grassroots. I got elected in a district where they said you cannot get elected unless you raise $50,000. And I heard that wrong, and I thought it was $15,000. And they said you absolutely cannot grassroots this district. It was one of the most gerrymandered districts in the state of California. It started all the way in Los Angeles County in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and ran all the way to the Lucerne Valley. It encompassed places like Lake Arrowhead and Victorville, Apple Valley, Hesperia. It was a lot of fun to grassroots it in 110-degree weather. But you know what? You can. Whenever the other side tells you what not to do, that ought to be your to-do list. And when the media and the left are telling us we should abandon our principles, I don't think we should listen to them. There's a simple concept that is as old as time, and that is immutable principles. Can you imagine the discussion that Wilbur and his brother had when the plane didn't take off the way they intended? They were trying to get some contraption to fly. And I bet at some point there was a discussion about changing who they were and what they stood for. Maybe we're just completely wrong. Maybe nothing can fly. But I just flew up here today. And it's the exact same principle of flight, which is very simple. It's just lift. If you can get the air to travel faster over the top of the wing with a little curvature, it will lift a craft, whether it's the initial craft that they flew, or whether it's a supersonic jet, or whether it's a Southwest airline jet where they give you those great peanuts. But whatever it is, that is an immutable principle. And that principle has changed the course of history. Freedom. That's what we stand for. That's what we unify people on. That's the story of the Republican Party. We are the people who set free the slaves. We are the people who have a principle where we say, let's get the government out of your way. That goes all the way back to before the founding of this country. To some Frenchman named John Locke, who said, laissez-faire. Get the government out of my house. Get the government out of my business. Get the government's hand out of my pocket. And I think that's a winning idea. We hear all kinds of talk right now, and everybody thinks the only thing I ever talk about is illegal immigration. Well, why would I ever talk about that? There's no point. Why don't we talk about immigration? If we're going to do an amnesty, why don't we do an amnesty for the people who want to become Americans, who are waiting in 10-year-long lines in their home countries because they yearn to live free. They want to escape the tyranny that is coming to this country. And you know what tyranny's foot soldier is? Socialism. It's socialism. And I did an interview recently, and it wasn't a lot of fun. And the senator can tell you, it's not easy sometimes to go down and face off against the media, but if we don't get out there and spread our message, it was the day after the election. I thought it was going to be a fun interview. I had my nose to the grindstone working on 4 campaigns. Once I knew I was safe. Once the unions had tried to take me out with $500,000 and I spent 14. 14 on one mail piece.
$14?
14,000. Now that would be real fiscal conservative. I like this guy. But I went down to do an interview and I thought for sure there'd be 3 or 4 people. Republicans, Democrats, a panel. Nope. Just me. And I was late. The guy says, "Oh, don't even worry. Hey, when you win by 60%, you can be late. We cleared a spot for you. We got 5 full minutes." And of course, we lost almost every single race. Every race I worked on except my own, we lost. And it was so discouraging. And I prayed and I asked the Lord, give me the words. And so then He just hit me with the question that everybody's wondering about. He said, "How isn't this a complete repudiation of the Republican Party? You are now so irrelevant, you're beyond irrelevant." You know what? He said, "You're the party of old white men. And how do you reach this new demographic? It's obvious that you can't do anything." You know what I said to him? I said, I reject the notion when you bring up race into a party. A party, a political party, is about unifying people around ideas, ideals, and principles. And the cornerstone of our party is freedom. And you know, we don't do ourselves any favors when right after Prop 30 passes, our party, up here, the Republican caucus, ran a bill. And they're running a bill to basically be the tax collector for the welfare state. They want to make absolutely certain that no college student will ever have to have their tuition go up. I'm sorry, but since when did we become the guarantors of somebody else's commitment? Where is that any kind of a Republican principle? Where's the concept there? Because I think we're missing a terrific opportunity right there to put our arms around the young Democrat who really doesn't quite know what he thinks. I mean, there's a lot of young people in this room. And you guys are way smarter than me, because back then I didn't know what I thought about politics when I was your age and had that much hair. But I really think we're missing an opportunity. Let Jerry Brown own it. Because tax revenues, you know it and I know it, they're going to go up for one whole year, aren't they? But every single person in this room that's elected knows, they've heard from their contributors, every person who's a business owner knows, they wish they had the opportunity to protect their assets from the government grab, the government thievery, the government reaching into their pocket and taking their money without them being able to have any say in it. Because they made the tax increase retroactive. And by the way, the media never picked up on that till the day after, right? So we're missing a terrific opportunity to just say to the young person, look, I feel your pain. Because you just taxed your employer, your future employer, out of the state of California. Whether he physically moves or whether he simply takes his capital And see, they don't even know what capital is. They think that's Sacramento. They don't understand that it is hard-earned money that somebody has kept above and beyond for investing, for expansion. They think government creates jobs. Well, yeah, the fastest growing industry in the state of California is government. Can you believe that? With all the incredible innovation, with the advent of the internet, the things you can do on that telephone right now, like this gentleman with the tie, it's amazing. He's texting out what a great speech this is. It is incredible what you're able to do. What do we do in the Capitol? We bring truckloads of paper in, and they dump, and the senator can vouch for this. There's paper up to here on the last week with the 500 or 600 bills they want to run through. We have a computer too. I don't know, why don't we go green? You think. But let's go back to that student for a second. Here we have this terrific opportunity to let him see the consequences of his vote. To let him understand that what he did by voting to tax somebody else and asking somebody else to pay his way, that there's a cost to that. And the real cost is that when that fellow leaves, and when the media, which tells him and communicates to every young person, whether it's through the television or the internet or Instagram or Twitter or any of those things. You remember how they treated Mitt Romney? Like he was a criminal. A man who has created tens of thousands of jobs is treated like a criminal. And you look at what they say and what they message. You know, it's funny. They think the most dangerous thing is a gun. I think the most dangerous thing in a home is a television set, where we're pumping in the erosion and the destruction of American values on a daily basis, and we don't have any way to counteract it. And so I believe we have to go out there where people live. We have to let them see the consequences of the decisions they've made. We've got to get them to understand that when you tax the rich... How many people in here have more than $5 in their pocket? Okay, don't ever admit that in the state of California again. You are going to be the next revenue source. That's the whole point. If they raise $1 billion, they will spend $1.7 billion of it. And then they will look for something that is moving in order to tax it to pay for it. They have immense justifications. They have entire machinery just to justify the socialistic structure. Every single law that they pass out of that place has to have 3 or 4 or 10 or 3,000 regulators. So we continue to grow the government, even when there's a contraction. When we have technology, as I talked about, we don't shrink government to make it more efficient the way that even this factory. I've walked through this place. How many people here have had a tour of this factory? Okay, how many of you didn't eat a single piece of candy when you were walking through? Okay, good. Because it was incredible, the innovation and the automation that was able to be achieved because of the incredible vision. And that's what happens. And yet we never, ever get that into government. And I think we have an incredible opportunity to reach young people. And you know, when I asked that question about the $5, I was speaking at a real estate event, and a 24-year-old woman came up to me and she said, you know what? She said, I don't even know what the Tea Party's about. I've heard you're affiliated with it. I voted for Obama. But when you said that, you were talking about my husband and I. That's how we feel. See, the reason that Bill Clinton was such an incredible candidate, and he was awesome, was because he could feel how people felt and he could connect with them. And I think we have the best opportunity we have had in generations to connect with a whole new generation who knows on some level, at some point, they're going to pay for all this. And we have a way to reach them. And you know what's funny? Sometimes just by doing the right thing and making sure that it gets publicized, you can really advance your cause. I happened to decide to do a filibuster the last week of session. So they said on day one, we had 5 days, they said on day one, we have 550 bills to dispense with, and we'd really appreciate it if you keep the turbulence to a minimum. Well, I had already planned to speak on every bill I possibly could, which is not easy because, as the former senator knows, they will interrupt you if you go anywhere off track. And it's hard enough to speak on 10 bills in a day, let alone 100. But I did my best. I had my staff, all of whom are under the age of 25, running down to the floor with talking points. I did have at one point one of my Republican colleagues stole my microphone when I went to the bathroom. But I got that rectified. And as these bills just kept coming and coming, it was incredible. The amount of devastation and damage that they were able to do. And by standing up and speaking out on it, I was able to shine a light and get people to actually cover some of it and pay attention to it. Now, sometimes they were covering it because I was being shouted down by somebody who was a teacher, and he thought it was appropriate to use... he asked me if I would use my inside voice. I'm sorry if I waxed a little bit eloquent because they were talking about a bill to require a 3 feet barrier from every single motorist to a bicyclist. And they said you have the permission to cross the double yellow line to avoid the bicyclist. Well, I just had a friend who was killed crossing the double yellow line. In my mountain range, that's a death sentence. But there was one bill, and it was about vaccinations. And it was about the government. Right now, not everybody is forced to get a vaccination. I mean, everyone has children, you know. The machinery of government tells you have to get all these shots. The reality is you have a choice. You don't have to get every one of those shots. About 4% of Californians don't get the shots. But I found it deeply offensive that the government was going to force people to go to their doctor, take a day off work, and get a permission slip. Especially since a lot of the people who don't do this object on religious basis. So I spoke out against it. And this little group formed on Facebook, and they had about 500 members, and most of the members are what I would refer to as hippie chicks. They're women in their 20s who are mothers. They are absolute Obama lovers. They're all into organic everything. And they were joining my Facebook page and writing me incredible messages of support. And I thought, I am the most conservative legislator in the state of California. Thank you. And then they decided to hold a rally. And being a grassroots guy, I noticed that they had Rob Schneider, the Hollywood actor, who's a left-wing Hollywood actor, coming up to speak. And they also asked me to be a keynote speaker. And I said, you know what? I want to talk to these people. So I called them up and I said, okay, let's put our forces together. Let's get the media here. Let's create some pressure on the governor to not sign this bill. And here's how we'll do it. You tell them you've got the far right, Tea Party, Christian, conservative, whatever, epithets you need to throw out there. And then you've got a left-wing Hollywood guy, and I flew back up here and we stood on the steps of the Capitol. And I met Rob Schneider, who, by the way, we've been fans because, as my wife will tell you, this is my wife Rowena here. Every time one of his movies comes out, she goes, "Did you know he's part Filipino?" And that's just like every single time. And so here we get to meet the guy. That was kind of cool. But I couldn't believe we were on the same side. And so I got up there and I gave a rip-roaring speech about how if my parents had listened to the government, first of all, they were never supposed to have any children. They had the RH factor. And the government discouraged people like that from even getting married. Well, my parents were in love. They got married and they had 14 children. But there was one stillbirth before me and one after me. And I had 3 blood transfusions on the day of my birth. And it was just so amazing. I said, if they had listened to the government, you wouldn't have had a champion on the assembly floor for your bill. And what was exciting was standing there with a guy who's diametrically opposed to having people who are so far to the left that they're almost all the way around to the right, standing next to Tea Partiers on the same side of an issue. Now, there were only about 5,000 people on their Facebook page, but every one of you young people knows if somebody has 5,000 friends, that goes out to a lot of people. And I got an email about 2 weeks after the rally from a young lady, and she said, "I have never felt so relieved to be leaving the Democrat Party." She said, "If my friends knew I was talking to a Tea Partier, they wouldn't even speak to me." She said, "I've always had one issue, a single issue. This is what I've always voted on, and that's a woman's right to choose." And she said, "I know that you're pro-life." She said, "But Tim Donnelly, I want to help you in whatever you do. Wherever you run, I will be one of your volunteers." She said, "We need to get more people like you who will stand up for the Constitution and keep the government out of my decisions." You know what that is? That is an opportunity. When we can get them to see that the government control over your life deprives you of your freedom. And in order for government to control your life, whether they're trying to control the economy, or whether they're trying to control your medical decisions, or whether they're trying to control your industry that you work in, they have to use force and coercion. I sat here at the table with the chairman of this company, and he told me example after example after example. I've gone and talked to so many different business owners, and every single one of them put it so well that I have to repeat it. He said, "You know what I'm sick and tired of?" He said, "I don't have to live in California anymore because I'm fabulously wealthy." He's worth about $500 million. And he owns half the real estate in the county, it seems like. He said, "I'm leaving." He said, "But I don't have to." He said, "I'm just sick and tired of having a silent partner that works against me." And that's the state of California. And I think as it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer, as Prop 30 fails to achieve the revenue growth with any stability, because it's going to go up and then it's going to crash, because a lot of people are going to change their behavior. It's just human nature to protect yourself. That, combined with the vision that was laid out here for our party, presents a tremendous opportunity for us to go open up that big tent that Ronald Reagan always talked about, And that gives us a terrific opportunity to capture seats. And yes, possibly even the governorship. But let me make one thing perfectly clear. I have no interest in being the next governor of this state. But somebody has to go plow that field. We don't have a Republican primary anymore. Somebody has to go out there and do the work on the ground with the grassroots, and that's the only thing that I know how to do. We need to rebuild this state precinct by precinct, because did I tell you that I won by exactly 1 vote per precinct? So the work that you do as a central committee is critically important. Hearing somebody lay down the gauntlet to grow it by 10 times what it is today is awesome. But we also need to have a candidate out there that the people believe in, that will inspire them. Somebody who can articulate the principles that made this country great. And those principles are unifying principles. We don't need to go talk to the Hispanic community about what we don't agree on. You know what? I've received more email from people with Hispanic surnames about the Second Amendment than anything else. Why don't we go talk to them about that? Why don't we go talk to them? Go into their community. Have somebody in there sponsor us so that we are vouched for. Have somebody in there who's a business owner. Why aren't we talking about free market enterprise and the principles of capitalism? You know, many of them escaped countries where the rule of law completely collapsed. The rule of law is the cornerstone of our republic, so we cannot abandon that. But we can message better. We can say, you know what? We want you to come here. We need immigration. But we do need it to be orderly. And we do need to have one system, because we have a simple concept that all men are equal under the law. And that we have one set of rules for everybody, including from the President of the United States all the way down to a lowly assemblyman, and even lower than that if there is such a thing in California. Thank you for your attention tonight. Thank you for your hard work. I'm going to ask you to join me in this great cause. And I'm going to ask you, if you feel so led, to do one or all three. One, obviously, it takes money to run a campaign. And I am running a test campaign. And I have benchmarks set. The first one is somebody like Clint Eastwood going to get in the race? I wish he would, but I talked to him and he said he isn't. But we all want somebody with big name recognition. Somebody with a truckload of cash. But I don't see that person coming. If they come, and if they're with us on at least 80% of the issues, and if they have the fight in their heart and soul to win, then I will not only get out of this race, I will donate the maximum, and I will get behind that person and campaign for them to make absolutely certain we get a Republican governor. But if you feel led tonight, after you have supported your party, I need your help. I also need you to commit to help me as volunteers. And the last and really the most important thing is I need your prayer. Our country needs your prayer. Our state needs your prayer. You know, I got elected with more people praying for me than voted for me. And I take that very seriously. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great state. And Godspeed.
Well, the great Karnak, I hold in my hand the last speaker. Sorry, you got to be old like me to remember what that's even about. In this last November, we saw a Senate race here in California for the United States Senate. that illustrated you don't fight the battles you can win, you fight the battles that must be fought. And fighting the battle that must be fought for us Americans, was Elizabeth Emkin.
Yay!
Who joined us. Where are you, Elizabeth? Oh, there she is. Get up here. And I should point out that Lydia Perez, at the very last moment, was unable to be with us. So please allow me to present Elizabeth Emkin.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I am not going to keep you. I know it's getting late. I just really appreciate the opportunity to thank you. I really want to thank you for the opportunity to be your nominee and the opportunity to run against an entrenched long-term incumbent like Dianne Feinstein and give her as much of a run for money as we possibly could. And it's because of you that we were able to get 38% of the vote. So what do you think about that? 4.7 million people have had enough of Dianne Feinstein. Can you imagine if she'd actually got up on a stage and talked for a few minutes? She had nothing to say. Dianne Feinstein had nothing to say about her record. And she is actually doing the one thing she promised to do with the assault weapons ban. She said she would do it. For anybody that was listening, she said she would do it. Well, I love that she's getting a little bit of pushback now, isn't she? It's kind of enjoyable to watch. You know, there's nothing says irony like an anti-gun gunman holed up in Big Bear, and people. Can you imagine they don't have guns in their homes right now in the Big Bear area?
Oh, we do.
Yeah. Yes. So talk about irony. But anyway, you know, I want to say something about Solano County. Thank you, Dawn, so much. And all of you, the Republican women from Solano, thank you so much. I will never forget, this was a grassroots campaign. You all know that. I'll never forget coming to Solano and seeing they'd made their own banner. They just made their own banner. Never seen my name so big. And I tell you, those gestures, that support, it meant so much. But you know what we got? I had 10,000 donors now that said, we want you to fight the fight. We want to fight this fight. We are unwilling to cede our state. And I think this is what we have to continue to do. I'm a glass half full kind of gal. I believe that the opportunity that lays ahead, especially in 2014, is tremendous here. I'm very, very bullish on what lies ahead. I think the Republican Party is, and I know you agree with me, we're right on the substance. We are right on the principles. We don't need to change our principles. We don't need to change the substance. We just need to up our style game a little bit. Just up our style game a little bit. For whatever reason, we have a lot of the electorate that only listens to 30-second sound bites, and then their attention is gone. We just have to learn to give them the information that they need to hear, nice little sound bites, and package it in a way that they can understand it. I mean, it's just really that simple. And with your help, and with all of us working together, I know that we can do this. You know, I am so grateful to have someone step up, like Jim Brulte. And by the way, UCLA, 1984. And you know, I don't know if it was John Wooden who said this, I don't think so, but my dad was a football coach. And I remember hearing over and over again, you know what, the best defense is a good offense. So we're going to go on offense in some of the congressional districts that Jim mentioned and other areas around the state. And we're going to really show them that we have a message, we've got messengers, because again, our principles are fine. It's message, messenger, and tone. We're the party of opportunity, the party of compassion, and the party of solutions. And we just need to get that message out wherever we can. So thank you so much, Solano County, for your support. I could never have done it without the grassroots. And it was the thrill of a lifetime. It really was. And I gotta just say one more thing about being here at the Jelly Belly factory tonight. Herb, thank you so much for your support. And my kids are not real happy that I'm at Jelly Belly again without them. They think Mom's at a Jelly Belly party tonight. She must be, you know, swimming in a vat of jelly beans. So they're none too happy about the visions they have in their heads. But thank you so much. And let me tell you, I'm not going anymore. I'm going to keep fighting. Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's been a long night, and I'm going to do this very, very quickly, but a couple of things I want to say. Speak louder.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, I'm a Marine. Can anybody not hear me? All right, hoorah. Hoorah. All right.
Give us 20, maggot.
There you go. Right here, right now. Pick up your constitutions. Rick, please stand up. Rick, stand up. Attention, Marine. This gentleman is the man who printed these. And he put every one of them on your plate. This is America. This is America. And that man does it at his cost. Okay? He did it. We need money. I'm going to be real crass. We need money. If you think you want to serve, you want to get into the fight, step up. Step up. Because we are facing one hell of a fight. Everybody else is going to be nice and polite, and so I'm not. Okay? You want the hill taken? Fix bayonets, Marine. We do two things. We kill people and we break things. We take the hill. That's it, period, end of sentence. Okay, last thing I'm going to tell you is, Diane, please stand up. Did you like the wine? Gun Barrel, did you like it? Thank her. She's our chemist. Okay, she's one of our chemists. And our wine has improved over the past 5 years because of Diane Page being here to help us. Okay? And that's the truth. It's that simple. Oh yeah, and we're all old white men and we don't have any women or anybody else in the party. Amen. What a load of crap. All right, good night. Thank you very much for coming. Come again.